Dear ladies and gentlemen, if you're struggling right now, if you feel like you're standing at the edge of a cliff, holding on by a thread no one else can see, this is for you, not the version of you that smiles at everyone and says, "I'm fine," not the version that shows up strong. I'm speaking to the part of you that's tired, the one who cries when the lights go off and everyone else has gone to sleep. You didn't ask for this battle. You didn't choose this valley, but you're in it. And right now it feels like no one sees you, like heaven is silent, like your prayers hit the ceiling and fall right back down. But listen to me, you're still breathing. That means you haven't lost. That means you're not finished. That means God's not done. You may feel broken, shattered, exhausted. But even the most beautiful stained glass windows were once jagged, broken shards, until the fire shaped them into something glorious. So I want you to hear this. The fire you're walking through right now is not your ending. It's your becoming. You might be questioning, why me? Why this? Why now? And I can't give you every answer, but I can tell you this. There's purpose in pain. There's power in pressing through when nothing makes sense. Right now, what you think is the end might just be the middle. And in the middle, it always looks messy, it looks like failure, it feels like silence. But in the silence, something sacred happens. That's where your strength is forged. That's where your faith is tested. That's where the invisible roots grow deeper. So when the storm passes, you'll stand taller than ever before. You think you're weak because you cry. No, friend. Tears don't mean you're weak. They mean you're still fighting. Pain is not the end, it's the beginning of transformation. When pain shows up in your life, it doesn't always come with an explanation. It arrives like a storm, uninvited and overwhelming, shaking the foundation you thought was solid. It pulls things out of place. It ruins your plans. It breaks your rhythm. And it leaves you wondering if you'll ever recognize your life again. But pain, as cruel as it may seem, is often the tool that starts the greatest change. You see, there are places inside us that comfort never touches. When everything is going well, we don't ask the deep questions, we don't search, we don't dig, we glide. But pain forces us inward. It cracks the surface of who we thought we were and exposes the places we never wanted to confront. It stirs up the insecurities, the doubts, the childhood memories, the things we buried to survive. It demands attention, and in that sacred discomfort, something begins to shift. The truth is, transformation rarely begins in the light. It begins in darkness, in the confusion, in the tears, in the ache that you can't explain to anyone. It starts when you lose what you thought you needed. It starts when the door you prayed would open stays closed. It starts when the people you trusted walk away. Pain interrupts the ordinary. It creates the space for the extraordinary. And in that space, you begin to shed layers you didn't know you were carrying. You let go of pride because suddenly, you have no strength left to pretend. You release control because you finally realize it was never yours to begin with. You stop performing, you stop hiding, and slowly, without even knowing how, you become real, authentic, broken in the best kind of way. There's a quiet becoming that happens in suffering. You're no longer the person you were before. You don't laugh the same way. You don't speak the same way. You carry a depth, a softness, a wisdom that only pain could give you. You begin to see others differently. You notice their eyes, their silence, their struggles, because you've been there too. You begin to feel compassion, not from a place of theory, but from a place of understanding. Pain changes your perspective. It rewrites your priorities. What once seemed urgent suddenly doesn't matter anymore. The noise quiets, the mask slips, and your heart becomes tender to things that once passed you by. The sun feels warmer. A kind word feels deeper. You start to find beauty in little things, not because life is perfect, but because you've learned to see differently. The transformation isn't instant. It doesn't come with applause. It happens in private, in the long nights, in the questions, in the prayers whispered with shaking hands. It comes in the moments when you're tempted to give up but choose to breathe instead. It comes in surrender, not in control. It comes in tears, not in strength. And though it hurts, though it breaks you, though it leaves you on your knees, it also opens a door you never saw before. Through pain, you begin to connect to the deeper parts of your soul. You rediscover what really matters. You remember the dreams you buried long ago. You feel something awaken, not loud, not dramatic, but steady. You feel courage, not because you've conquered the pain, but because you've faced it and stayed. And something in you begins to rise. Something stronger, something truer, something that wasn't there before. Your tears are not weakness. They are signs you're still fighting. When the world pushes you to your limit, when your heart is heavy and your strength feels gone, those tears that fall down your face are not signs of defeat. They are proof that something inside you still believes. They show that even when everything feels like it's slipping through your fingers, you haven't given up. You're still feeling, still caring, still holding on in a world that so often tells you to numb yourself and move on. Tears are the voice of the soul when words run dry. They speak when nothing else can. They tell the truth that you hide behind your smile. They carry pain, yes, but also courage. They carry the moments you can't explain to others. The nights you stay awake trying to figure out why things turned out the way they did. The days when you push through responsibilities with a brave face while something inside you is breaking. They are not weakness. They are strength in its rawest form. You cry because something matters to you. You cry because you have a heart that refuses to grow cold. In a world that often rewards hardness and applauds indifference, your tears mean that you still have compassion. You still care. You still dream. You still feel the weight of what you've lost and the hope of what you long for. There is a kind of fight that doesn't look like fists raised or loud speeches. Sometimes it looks like tears rolling down your cheeks while you keep going anyway. The strongest souls are not always the loudest. They are the ones who keep showing up even when no one sees their effort. They are the ones who cry behind closed doors and still show up for their families, still go to work, still whisper prayers they're not even sure are being heard. They are the ones who've walked through storms and still offer love. Your tears don't mean you're weak. They mean you've been strong for too long without rest. They are a release, a surrender, a sacred act of letting go. There is no shame in being overwhelmed. There is no shame in having days where you can't hold it together. Let the tears fall. Let the emotions come. You're not losing control. You're honoring your humanity. You're allowing yourself to feel instead of pretending everything is okay. That is not failure. That is bravery. That is how healing begins. That is how pressure is released before it crushes you. It takes courage to be soft in a world that tells you to toughen up. Every tear is a story, a memory, a wound, a silent plea for peace. And though others may not understand your tears, though they may brush them off or avoid them, the truth is, they are sacred. They mean that your heart is still beating with love, still hoping for something better. They mean that something inside you refuses to go numb. And that matters. That strength matters. You haven't given up. You haven't turned your heart to stone. And that is something rare and beautiful. Your tears connect you to others who feel deeply too. They remind us all that we're not alone. That behind every strong face is a story. That behind every smile could be a battle. Your tears are part of your fight, not apart from it. They are a sign of endurance, of resilience, of life still burning quietly in the dark. Silence doesn't mean you've been abandoned. There are moments in life when everything goes quiet. The doors don't open, the answers don't come, the voices you used to lean on seem distant, and even your own prayers feel like they vanish into the sky. You look around searching for signs, for comfort, for some reassurance that you're not walking this path alone. But the silence lingers, and in that silence, doubt begins to whisper. It tells you that maybe no one is listening. Maybe no one cares. Maybe you've been left behind. But silence isn't absence. Silence is space. It's the space where growth happens in secret. Just like a seed buried deep underground. There's no sound as it breaks open, no applause as it sends its roots downward, no spotlight as it begins to rise. The transformation is quiet, hidden, sacred. And just because you can't see the movement, just because you can't hear the answer, doesn't mean something isn't happening. So many of the most powerful changes in your life are formed in silence. Not in the loud, celebrated moments, but in the stillness where you're left alone with your thoughts, your fears, your heart. It's in that silence that you face yourself. It's in that space where you begin to hear your own voice, not the noise of the world. It's where you learn to be honest with what you're carrying, what you've been running from, what you've been hoping for. Silence is uncomfortable because it strips away distractions. It leaves you with nothing to hide behind. And in that vulnerability, you either panic or you begin to listen more deeply, not to the noise outside, but to the still, small stirrings inside you. The ones that remind you of your worth, the ones that call you back to your purpose, the ones that say, this moment is not the end. This is preparation. There are seasons when answers are delayed not because you are forgotten, but because you are being strengthened. In the silence, your endurance grows. In the silence, your faith is refined. In the silence, you learn to trust. Not because everything makes sense, but because you've come to believe that you're being held, even when it doesn't feel like it. That's a different kind of trust. That's not based on feelings or signs. That's built on a foundation deeper than circumstances. Sometimes silence is where the most intimate connection is formed. Not in the words, but in the presence. The quiet understanding that you are seen even when no one speaks. that you are loved even when no one tells you, that you are guided even when the path isn't lit. There's a comfort that grows in the silence when you stop fighting it, when you stop demanding noise and begin to lean into the quiet. You may feel alone in your silence, but you are not the only one who has walked through it. So many before you have sat in that same stillness, waiting, wondering, hoping, and they came out stronger. Not because the silence broke quickly, but because they discovered strength they didn't know they had. They found clarity. They found peace in the pause. And eventually, they heard the whisper that only silence makes room for. The silence isn't punishment. It's not rejection. It's not abandonment. It's a place of formation. It's the in-between, the stretch, the molding. It's the echo before the answer. And even though it's hard, even though it hurts, even though everything inside you wants to fill it with noise, the silence has its purpose. The silence is doing its work. The silence is not empty. It is full of something unseen, something sacred, something that is preparing you for what comes next. The fire you're walking through is forging your strength. It may feel like you're being consumed, like everything familiar is burning away and all that's left is the heat, the pressure, and the uncertainty. But fire doesn't only destroy, it refines. It burns away the unnecessary, the shallow, the temporary. It strips you down to your essence and reveals what cannot be taken from you. In the fire, masks melt, false identities fall apart, and what's real is revealed. The fire doesn't lie. It shows you who you really are. When you're in the middle of it, it's hard to see the purpose. Everything feels chaotic. The things you once depended on no longer work. The routines that gave you comfort no longer help. The people you leaned on may not understand. You feel exposed, vulnerable, alone. But this fire is not here to break you. It's here to make you unbreakable. Not by keeping you comfortable, but by teaching you that your strength was never in the things you lost. It was always in you. Every trial you're walking through right now is shaping something inside you. The tears, the pressure, the disappointment, the confusion, none of it is wasted. It's forming character. It's building resilience. It's helping you shed the things you didn't know were holding you back. Sometimes the only way to grow is through the fire, not around it, not over it, through it. Because on the other side of fire is not just survival, it's transformation. The fire teaches you how to keep moving even when you're scared. It teaches you how to breathe when everything feels suffocating. It teaches you how to let go of what you cannot control and hold tight to what truly matters. It doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes your spirit. It takes away what is superficial and leaves behind what is eternal. And what's eternal is the part of you that can't be shaken. Your faith, your courage, your identity. You don't come out of the fire the same. You come out deeper, wiser, more compassionate. You come out with scars that shine, not because they're flawless, but because they prove you survived something real. You come out with a voice that carries authority, not from perfection, but from experience. You come out with an empathy that cannot be taught, only earned. People will feel something different in you, even if they can't explain it. Because when you've been through the fire, you carry a presence that can't be faked. The refining process is never quick. It doesn't offer shortcuts. It demands surrender. It asks you to trust even when it hurts. It pushes you beyond your limits not to punish you, but to show you that your limits were never as fixed as you thought. It invites you to rise again, not with the same patterns but with a new fire inside. A fire that doesn't burn to destroy but burns to illuminate. A fire that clears the old and makes way for the new. And while you're in it, while everything feels like it's being taken from you, remember this. Gold is not refined in the calm. Steel is not forged in comfort. Beauty is not born in ease. It is created in the places where everything is tested, where everything hurts, where everything is stripped down and remade. The fire will not last forever, but what it builds inside you, that will last a lifetime. What it teaches you, what it draws out of you, what it awakens in you, that becomes the foundation for the life you never thought possible. You are more than what you've been through. Life has a way of marking us, of leaving its fingerprints on our souls. Every experience, every loss, every betrayal, every heartbreak, each one etches something deep within us. There are moments that feel like they define us, that shape how we see ourselves, how we speak about our worth, how we carry our stories. We begin to wear our wounds like names, our traumas like titles, as if the things that hurt us most are the only truths about who we are. But what happened to you is not the whole of you. It may have affected you. It may have changed how you walk through the world. But it does not get the final word. There is a part of you that still breathes, that still dreams, that still rises every time you've been knocked down. And that part, though quiet, is more powerful than anything that's tried to destroy you. That part is your essence, The part of you that isn't defined by pain but by resilience, by your ability to keep going, by your courage to hope again, even when everything tells you not to. Your story didn't stop at the breaking point. That was only one chapter. There's more being written. There's more unfolding. And just because you can't see the whole picture yet doesn't mean it isn't already taking shape. What you've been through may explain some of your scars, but it doesn't explain your strength. It doesn't explain the softness you still carry despite all the hardness you've faced. It doesn't explain the way you still care, still love, still believe in goodness even after being surrounded by pain. That kind of strength cannot be measured in easy moments. It is forged in the hard places. It is built in the dark, behind the scenes, in the silence. And it is what sets you apart, not because you've never been broken, but because you've chosen not to stay broken. You may have been through seasons that left you questioning your worth. You may have been through experiences that made you doubt whether you would ever be whole again. But the truth is, wholeness isn't about never being hurt. It's about learning how to carry the pain and still move forward. It's about choosing healing over bitterness. It's about deciding that your story doesn't end with the worst thing that ever happened to you. That's not denial. That's power. That's reclaiming the pen and refusing to let your pain do all the writing. There is a you that exists beyond the pain. A version of you that is strong and wise and full of depth. And every step you take toward healing brings that version of you into focus. You are not weak for having a past. You are not broken for having a story. You are not damaged because you carry memories that still hurt. You are human. And your humanity is beautiful, not despite your pain, but because of it. Because you have felt deeply. Because you have walked through fire and still choose to be kind. Because you have faced loss and still choose to love. That is not weakness. That is strength the world needs. You are more than what you've survived. You are more than what others said about you. You are more than the shame you've carried. More than the mistakes you've made. More than the version of you that others tried to reduce you to. There is a light in you that no darkness can put out. There is a purpose in you that no failure can erase. There is a future ahead that isn't limited by your past. Every scar tells a story, but it doesn't have to be the story. It can be the evidence that you lived, that you learned, that you overcame, and that you're still becoming something greater than anyone expected. Even small light breaks great darkness. In the deepest places of despair, it doesn't take much to begin a shift. Just a flicker. Just a spark, one gentle whisper of hope, one quiet act of kindness, one decision not to give up. These small lights have the power to disrupt even the thickest shadows. We live in a world that often worships the big, the loud, the grand. But transformation doesn't always arrive in fanfare. Sometimes it comes in the stillness, in the soft moments that seem almost invisible to others. Darkness can feel consuming. It creeps into your thoughts, your body, your spirit. It convinces you that it will never leave. That this moment of heaviness will last forever, that you'll never see light again. But darkness is not permanent. It is simply the absence of light, and even the smallest light, no matter how faint, no matter how fragile, can begin to drive it away. The light doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be present. You may not feel like your light is enough. You may think you're too broken, too tired, too discouraged to shine. But light isn't about having it all together. Light is about being willing, being honest. Showing up in the dark with what little you have and offering it anyway. A kind word to someone else when your own heart is breaking. A small prayer when your faith feels weak. A single breath when it feels like you can't take another step. That is light. That is power. That is defiance in the face of despair. Sometimes your light is the smile you offer someone when no one knows what you're battling inside. Sometimes it's the courage to get out of bed when everything feels heavy. Sometimes it's the choice to keep going. Not because you feel strong, but because you believe this moment isn't the end. You may not see the impact of your small light, but that doesn't mean it isn't working. Sometimes it's not even about the size of your light, but about the fact that you refuse to let the darkness have the final say. We look for miracles in the thunder, but sometimes they come in the quiet, in the steady beat of a heart that refuses to give up, in the tear that falls without shame, in the whispered, "I'm still here," when everything else has fallen away. These are the moments that light the path. These are the moments that turn the tide. And often, we don't realize just how much strength it takes to be that small light until we see the darkness it begins to move. You don't have to wait until you're perfect to be a light. You don't have to wait until everything is fixed. You can shine from the middle of your mess. You can shine through your questions, through your doubt, through your uncertainty. The light in you is not dependent on the situation around you. It exists because you carry something that darkness cannot steal: hope. And even the smallest ounce of hope is enough to begin a revolution inside your soul. When it's dark, it's easy to feel invisible, to believe that what you offer isn't enough. But light doesn't need to shout, it doesn't need to demand attention. It simply shines quietly, faithfully, consistently. And that consistency is what begins to change things, one moment at a time, one step at a time, one heartbeat at a time. Whether anyone sees it or not, whether the world acknowledges it or not, your small light matters. It has value. It has weight. It has the power to shift everything. This battle is not bigger than your purpose. It may feel overwhelming. It may seem like the waves crashing over you are endless, like the weight on your shoulders will break you in two. There are days you can barely breathe, moments when fear whispers louder than truth, when confusion blurs your vision and pain speaks with more authority than peace. The struggle is real, raw, and unrelenting. But even this storm, no matter how fierce, does not have the final say. Your purpose is still intact. It is not defined by what you're going through. It was placed inside you before the storm began. Every battle you face is temporary, but purpose is eternal. Purpose is what you were created for. It is the reason you have breath, the reason your heart still beats even after the heartbreak, the reason you wake up even after sleepless nights. Your battle may shake you, but it cannot erase the reason you're still standing. Purpose doesn't vanish when the pain gets heavy. It doesn't disappear when things fall apart. It simply waits for you to remember it's still there. The battle may try to distract you, to discourage you, to make you forget, but deep inside, purpose is still whispering, keep going. The pressure you feel is not because you're weak. It's because you're carrying something important. You weren't made to quit in the middle. You weren't made to be crushed by the fight. You were made to endure. You were made to rise. Not because you have all the answers, not because you never fall, but because there is something inside of you that refuses to let go of what you were born to do. Every time you've been knocked down and gotten back up, every time you've wanted to give in but chose to take one more step, those moments are evidence that your purpose is stronger than the battle. You don't have to have it all figured out to keep moving forward. Sometimes purpose shows up in the middle of pain, in the decision to keep showing up even when the emotions don't make sense. Sometimes it's not clear, not loud, not glorious. It's quiet and steady, found in the daily choice to stay present, to stay faithful, to keep building, to keep believing even when you don't see results. The battle might be loud, but your purpose doesn't need to shout. It speaks in persistence, in humility, in love that stays even when it hurts. There is a reason this battle hasn't broken you. There is a reason you're still breathing. If the battle was stronger than your purpose, you would have given up by now. But something in you keeps fighting. Something in you still believes that there's more. That belief is not weak. It is sacred. It is what separates you from the pain that wants to define you. Your purpose is not just about you. It's about the lives you'll touch, the hearts you'll heal, the hope you'll bring just by being who you are. You may not understand why you're facing what you're facing, but you don't have to understand it to overcome it. You only need to remember that you're not fighting for survival. You're fighting to step fully into the life you were meant to live. The one that fear tried to steal, the one that pain tried to block, the one that doubt tried to bury. But it's still there, waiting, a life worth fighting for. Your purpose is not postponed, it's not cancelled, it's not gone. It's just waiting for you to trust that no matter how loud the battle gets, it is not louder than the fire inside you that refuses to be silenced. Miracles still happen, and you are one of them. Not because your life has been easy, not because you've never faced struggle, but because despite everything, you're still here. You've walked through things that should have broken you. You've faced moments where the weight of life felt unbearable, where the nights were so long you forgot what daylight felt like. You've been misunderstood, overlooked, and knocked down more times than you can count, yet you keep rising, you keep breathing, you keep believing, even if that belief is no louder than a whisper. That in itself is a miracle. The world teaches us to look for miracles in grand, shining moments. It tells us that they only happen in sudden breakthroughs or dramatic scenes. But real miracles are often quiet. They unfold in ordinary days. They hide in your courage to get up when you have every reason to stay down. They appear in your willingness to hope again after disappointment. They live in the tears you wipe away in silence, and the strength it takes to say, I will try one more time. These moments might not make headlines, but they change everything. You are a miracle because you carry light even when surrounded by darkness. You've been bent but not broken. You've been hurt but not hardened. There is a softness in you that pain could not steal, and a strength in you that fear could not erase. That balance, that rare and holy combination of tenderness and resilience, is not something that can be explained easily. It is not learned in comfort. It is birthed in the valley, in the middle of trials, through nights spent alone with your thoughts, wondering if you're going to make it through. You are still becoming, still unfolding, still growing in places no one sees, and that process, unseen, uncelebrated, often unacknowledged, is miraculous. You don't need to wait for a sign in the sky to know that something divine is happening. Look at your life. Look at the way you love even with a bruised heart. Look at the way you extend kindness even while healing your own wounds. Look at the way you speak life to others when you're still trying to breathe. That is not ordinary. That is extraordinary. That is sacred. People may look at you and not understand what you've been through. They may not see the battles you've fought, the tears you've cried, the nights you've prayed with trembling hands. But that's okay. Your miracle isn't for their approval. It's not measured by what they understand. It's measured by the quiet victories, the ones where you chose love over bitterness, where you chose to stay when running would have been easier, where you chose to trust when everything inside you screamed to give up. Those are the miracles that shape the soul. You don't have to feel strong every day to be a miracle. You don't have to have everything together. The fact that you're still standing, still searching, still open to growth, still willing to forgive, still daring to dream, that is evidence of a miracle in motion. Life has tried to put out your fire more than once, and still it flickers. Still it glows. Still it warms the hearts of those around you, whether you realize it or not. Miracles aren't reserved for special people. They aren't limited to certain seasons. They show up where there's faith, where there's persistence, where there's a soul that refuses to surrender. You are living proof that survival is not the same as stagnation. You are evolving, healing, becoming. And even on the days when nothing seems to change on the outside, something sacred is shifting within you. That quiet work, that invisible growth, that deepening strength. It's what makes your story miraculous. It's what makes your journey matter. It's what makes your presence in this world powerful beyond what you may ever fully understand. You've been walking through fire, through silence, through sorrow, carrying wounds that no one sees and battles that few could understand. And yet here you are, still breathing, still reaching, still fighting. This wasn't a speech about perfection. This was never about having it all figured out. This was about Hugh, the one who's still standing in the middle of the storm, the one who's tired but refuses to quit, the one who feels broken but still chooses love, still chooses light, still chooses to believe that your story is not over. You've heard it now. Your pain is not the end. Your tears are not your weakness. Your silence is not abandonment. Your fire is not destruction. Your past is not your name. Your small light is not insignificant. Your struggle is not stronger than your purpose. And your life, even in its mess, its cracks, its questions, is nothing short of a miracle. So wherever you are right now, whatever you're carrying, don't let the darkness convince you it has won. There's a flicker in you, a whisper, a sacred strength. And that is more than enough to begin again.